I'm Gail from Enrichment Coaching, and I'm the founder and CEO, although I prefer Chief Enrichment Officer. So welcome to this bite-sized edition of the Confidence Conversations podcast. And the purpose of these short little podcasts are to aim to bring you some context around some of the topics that have been discussed in Series 1 of the Confidence Conversations podcast with my guests. One topic that came up quite a lot was the comfort zone, so I thought it would be good to give you a little bit of context around that today. So what is the comfort zone then? Well, generally it's a behavioural space where we tend to spend most of our time, and it's important to note that everyone's version of the comfort zone will be different. Think about it as maybe a favourite place of yours to hang out, or maybe even a dangerous place. I've heard it described as the mediocre zone, the grey zone, and there are so many quotes about the comfort zone, such as life begins at the end of your comfort zone, or a particular favourite of mine is nothing grows in your comfort zone. Now, I like to think of it as a bit of a dangerous place to hang out, and that's because mainly it prevents you from doing stuff. It prevents you from improving, and it stops you from achieving all of those things you're truly capable of doing. I think it's also interesting to note that the comfort zone can make you miserable. Now, maybe you don't think you're miserable because you're in your comfort zone on that lovely comfy sofa in your lovely comfy slippers, but you might be coming across as being quite miserable to others. So stop and take a moment to think about how you could identify when you're in your comfort zone. Some ways to notice it are that, you might feel quite safe, you'll feel in control of everything. Things feel good, they're really familiar, you know what's going to happen and you know exactly when it's going to happen. The comfort zone is a completely natural state. And of course it feels much easier to remain in there when you're lovely and comfortable than it is to step out there into the unknown. So the first step to moving out of your comfort zone is to realise that you're in it. Sometimes it can be so comfy in there that you don't realise you are in it. Now, having the courage to step outside can be really scary. But as cheesy as it sounds, it really is where the magic happens. Now think back to the last time you did something that scared you or gave you, made you feel a little bit nervous. What happened? Did you feel great afterwards? If you did feel great, brilliant, go on, step outside your comfort zone again. If you didn't feel great, brilliant, go on, step outside your comfort zone again, because you will have learnt something from last time. So make the change, take a deep breath and go again. Stepping outside your comfort zone requires courage, but it's this courage that builds and enriches your confidence. In episode 2 of the Confidence Conversations podcast with personal branding photographer Ali Berry, we talked in some detail about the comfort zone, and Ali described that things out of her comfort zone don't come along too often, but when they do, she felt that they were linked to fear. And she said that if something's making her anxious, she now knows that pushing on through it will give her the confidence she needs to go out and do it. Now, I picked up on this fear piece because it's really interesting for me, because actually we can't live without fear. It protects us when danger is tangible and real, but also more interesting is that our brains can't determine the difference between real and perceived fear. And it's this perceived fear that we need to work on. So perceived fear then is a psychological response to the idea of potential danger. And our brain will devote a lot of time and energy to dealing with that perceived fear. But it is this fear that holds us back and stops us taking action. And I think it's really funny to think about, we often realise that actually doing something is worse than the thought of doing something, and that's this perceived fear. Another one of those fears is this fear of what if, and sometimes we don't even realise we're using it. And what ifs might sound like, what if I fail? What if it goes wrong? What if nobody likes me? What if nobody wants to work with me? What if I make a fool of myself? What if I look stupid? And what if no one likes or comments on my social media posts? Well, my challenge to you would be, what would you do if you knew the what if would never happen? It's likely that you'd just go ahead and do it anyway. So sometimes you have to be courageous and step out of your comfort zone. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And actually, is feeling uncomfortable the worst thing in the world? While you probably wouldn't want it to happen all the time, sometimes feeling uncomfortable can be a good thing. When you step out of your comfort zone to take on a challenge in life, it might feel uncomfortable. But if you keep pushing forward, great things happen. Then you'll feel better, you'll feel different, you'll feel like you've made a difference, you'll feel like you're moving forward. Great things don't usually come easy, right? So use that comfortable feeling to drive you on into your goals to achieve your success rather than letting it hold you back. So how does stepping out of your comfort zone link to confidence? Because confidence usually isn't linked with fear, or is it? Well, I think if you do something that scares you, actually this usually means you're learning something new or doing something different and that it's challenging. But that feeling also means that you're growing and learning too. And remember, confidence isn't about what we think we can and can't do. It's about what we think and believe we can and can't do. And that's really important. So stepping out of your comfort zone will need you to think and believe you can do something, which you can. And this takes courage. And courage builds mastery because you start to think, actually, I can do this. This mastery in turn then builds confidence because we naturally start to believe that we can do something. One of the things I hear a lot from clients and people I meet with is them say, oh, it was really out of my comfort zone for me to do that. I felt like I was really out of my comfort zone. And I always wonder, what do they mean by that? Obviously, if it's in a coaching session, then I'll explore it and we'll talk about it. But if this is something you've heard yourself saying, stop for a moment and make a note of what that really means. How do you know if you're in your comfort zone? What feelings or emotions were attached to that made it realise you were stepping outside or what you were doing was out of your comfort zone? Now, we always talk about stepping outside of our comfort zone, but what about stepping back inside it? I know I'm not going crazy. But when you were outside of your comfort zone, you were learning to use all of your senses to deal with what's happening around you. And it's fair to say that it's not sustainable for us to be living outside of our comfort zone all the time. We can't be in that state of learning or that state of processing all the time. So I think it's safe to say you can use your comfort zone as a safe space to process what you learnt while you stepped outside, to reflect, to make sense, to process, and to think about what you'd do differently for next time. Just make sure that you don't stay in there for too long and it becomes too comfortable again. Now, all this talk about stepping outside your comfort zone isn't easy, is it? But how can you actually do it? Well, the first thing I'd say is, it doesn't have to be big. You don't have to go all out to make a massive change. Small steps all add up and they all move you forward and they all make a big difference. So try a few of these to get you started. Right, this one makes me feel really scary, but it is: leave your phone at home for a day, or just while you pop out, just leave your phone at home. Buy someone in the queue behind you a coffee. Learn something new. Eat something different or cook a new dish if that's your thing. Go on a different route on your walk or on your run. Find new places, explore them, be brave. Or make a list of all the things you want to do but feel they're out of your comfort zone. Then pick one or two and pull up your big pants and go and do it without hesitation. You might just surprise yourself. So if you haven't listened to the Confidence Conversations podcast, go ahead, pick an episode, have a listen, and I'd love to know what you think.